Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my God!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will sing the phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow. Whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of two. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Hey everybody, welcome into another episode of the Plotaholics podcast. I'm Shane Wilson, and I'm joined as always by my friend, my companion, my podcast partner, podcast host to the stars, Brian Tan.
Hey there.
Brian Anthony Tanopoulos.
Woohoo!
In the house.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In my house too.
Brian, if you were going to have entrance music that played every time you walked into a room, what song would you use?
Ooh. See, I think it would be a tie between, because I've always thought about this as a wrestling fan.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. As a kid, it was Got the Life by Korn.
Oh, solid.
And then it was Number One by Nelly.
Oh, okay.
What does it take to be number one? Because 2 is not a winner and 3 nobody remembers. But I think it would probably be Swamped by Lacuna Coil, because there's just something about that song that just gets me.
Nice.
So I think it would probably it would be probably a little bit of between those latter two.
I like it. Excellent.
Yeah, what would yours be?
I'm torn between either the Slinky theme song or that I'm So Humble song that we were from Popstar.
Yeah.
That's honestly what I would want, right?
I think I'm So Humble would probably be like amazing.
I am by far the most humble list.
That would be so awesome.
Standing right at the top of the humble list.
I seriously think that if that was like your wrestling theme and you were like headlining like a WrestleMania, you would have to get like Andy Samberg and the crew to actually like perform the song live.
Yeah, and I think that they would.
Oh, I'm sure they would.
And then they would get involved in like this weird like cheating. Like they would help. They would like grab the guy over the rope and like choke him out and stuff.
Yeah, it would definitely be sort of like what we saw at WrestleMania between Johnny Knoxville and
right.
Sami Zayn. It would actually be absolutely hilarious. Like they would do all these gags on your opponent and everything too to give you the advantage. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm for it. And then like in the final hour when I'm like on my like on the verge of losing, in comes freaking Michael Bolton. Like to save the day.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see Michael Bolton, but he would have to wear like, and he'd do it because he's very self-aware and he doesn't take himself too seriously. He would actually have to wear like a wig of his hair from like 1987. Oh,
that's good. I was thinking he would come in as Jack Sparrow and just like swashbuckle in on a rope.
Oh, I would be all for that too. I'm a swashbuckler. And like you would actually hear that play over like the thing, and he would just swing in on the rope and just like kick your opponent in the face and be like, "If this was the day you almost beat the humblest of the humble." Shane,
that's right. Humble.
That's right. It would be so awesome.
Like, and then I do like my like the how they always have to talk shit in the mic afterward, right? Yeah. I'm like doing my speech, but Michael Bolton is like my hype man, and he's just singing like every 5 words that I do. He's just like.
He's like, I came out here to win. Oh, he came out here to win.
He's like, pay-per-view next week.
It would just be like that real American heroes. I still love that. Those are my favorite commercials too. But that would definitely be the Michael Bolton thing.
That was the here's to you foam finger guy.
Yeah. Mr. Foam Finger Man in the
That's so good,
stands.
dude. Those commercials were fantastic.
I know they need to bring those back. Like I won't drink the beer, but I have all the time in the world for those commercials.
Yeah. Brian, we're continuing our Summer of Song this week with a indie film that made some waves at the Oscars, a little ditty called Once.
I had never seen this before, so it was very interesting to watch this.
Yeah, this movie is a vibe.
It really is. It's very quirky. It's a very quirky film, and
it's dripping of like the indie film vibe, you know.
Yeah, you get the indie film vibe, and then you also get, as we over here in America, we get sort of the feeling of being in another country. You know, this is an Irish film. It takes place in Dublin, but we get to see a lot of that as well.
Like local flair and everything, you know.
It really does, and
it starts that way. Like the opening scene is maybe the most freaking European thing I've ever seen.
It is extremely European.
When he's like busking and this guy runs up and the guy first of all is like pissing on the side of this building.
Yeah, and then he's like trying to he's acting like he's tying his shoes. He's like, "Come on, dude."
Like and the guy's like, he's like, "Come on, man, don't take it." He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "No, look, I'm putting a little bit in there." And he snatches the bag
and takes off, and he hands someone his
guitar
that was key number one. This ain't the America, because that person would have just dropped that guitar, stepped on it, and kept going, or would have just stolen it. Yeah. I even told Sharon, I said, he's coming back. He ain't getting that guitar back.
At the same time, that guitar was pretty busted anyway.
It really was. Like, how did that guitar really have like two open holes in the front? Yeah. Like, you had the one you're supposed to have. And
Glenn Hansard actually plays that. That's his real guitar.
Oh, wow.
Like when he plays live, that's the guitar he plays.
Wow.
So that's not a prop. Like that, his guitar really is that beat up.
Damn, dude, that guitar has seen him through everything. That thing has seen him through prime ministers, terror attacks, freaking God knows what else.
I mean, the guitar may be older than I am.
Yeah.
Or older than him. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you get the sense that like it's a guitar that he probably bought secondhand when he was a kid.
Or third.
And he's just like or third hand, and he's just like sort of found a way to keep it working for him. But
you know what? This movie, I had been thinking about it, but this movie really makes me want to get an acoustic bass.
Yeah.
It really does, because when I first got Miss Odette, she chewed up the wire for my bass to go into my amp.
Sucks.
So, and I just haven't I just haven't had the time to get a replacement yet.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, if I had an acoustic, it wouldn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, so, this guy steals the stuff and he chases him down. So, like, first of all,
he really does.
Our two leads are played by Glenn Hansard and Marketa Irglova. But in the film, they are just guy and girl. Like, we
don't get names. We don't get names.
And I like that.
I mean, I like it, but it kind of makes it difficult when he goes to, goes to her house.
Yeah.
And he goes, "So is she in?" It's like, all right, why are we playing the pronoun game? You can use your name. But no, I mean, it was a very interesting choice, and that's the quirkiness of the film, because they've decided their names don't matter.
Right, and I think that we will circle back around to like that idea a lot about the things that don't matter and the things that do matter in this film, because I think that's sort of at the center of all of it, right?
Right.
But he catches this guy that steals his tips, right? And they're just like, they both are winded in the park.
Yeah,
and
that was the laziest chase scene ever.
Exactly. And then he's like, "Hey man, don't take it. Like if you need something, just ask for it, but don't take it." He's like, "Can I get that $5?" And he's like, "Fuck yeah." He's like, "All right, here you go."
Yeah, fine, take it. Like seriously, like you did all that and you didn't have to. This dude would have been more than happy to get it. It tells you the type of person that Guy is, though. Guy is he's a good person. He's got a big heart to him.
He's a broken-hearted Hoover fixer sucker guy, but he
really is.
He's a sad boy. He's a sad boy.
I love the fact though that our girl really was like dragging her vacuum cleaner like she was walking a dog.
That's like she was walking stuff. Like Zach Braff could have written this movie, right? Like it's that kind of quirky. At least for a good chunk of the beginning of it, it's that kind of quirky.
I think the quirkiness is what really draws you in, because I'm not even saying this to be mean, but the dialogue isn't anything to like write home about.
It's
like standard conversation, which
yeah.
is very refreshing. But they needed something to keep the viewer,
Well,
because
and
not every viewer is going to be into that.
I think that there's like the 1-2 punch at the top of this busker getting robbed or attempted robbed, and then the next bit, like the title sequence segment, where like you get this far off shot of him at night and he's playing this song on an empty sidewalk. Like that song is so good.
It really is. You know, like I don't know. Like I said, I haven't heard of our leads. So this was my very first introduction.
You should dig into them. They're very good.
Yeah, they really are. And that scene when they're in the music shop,
yeah,
and she's playing the piano while he's playing, I'm just like, my soul. I actually wrote a song during that scene. That's the first song that I've written. God, 20 years.
Well, there's like that scene is so powerful.
It really is.
And this is the power of this movie is in its quietness, right?
Right.
And we talked about that with A Star Is Born too, that it was powerful because of its like disparity and its dynamics, right? Like when it was loud, it was loud. When it was quiet, it was quiet. But here, like this movie just kind of like rests in the pocket the whole time.
Right. The only time it really starts to get loud is when they're in the studio.
Right.
And even then, it's not loud. This is this little dingy, rickety recording studio.
Yeah.
But it's like a dive because it's the inside that counts. They've got some pretty decent equipment, but it's pretty, you know, divey looking outside. And that's kind of like the what we kind of got in Dreamgirls when they had the scene with the Detroit riot, where, you know, it's in this, you know, the building, it looks nice enough, but it doesn't look like what a recording studio would be in. But inside, they got good stuff going on, you know. Right. And it was in, I know we're sort of doing a lot of jumping, but this isn't a long movie.
It's not.
This is a very short
It's exactly as long as it needs to be.
But it feels longer. Mm-hmm. And I think that is, there are certain films, there are certain TV shows that can do an awful lot with the time you're given.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like the movie really is about these two people who meet each other on the street. Like she's listening to him play the song at the beginning. I love this conversation that they have. She's like, "That you wrote that? That's you know, that's not an established song, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm working on it." And she goes, "Why don't you play that during the day?" And he's like, "Well, people don't want to hear this during the day. They want to hear songs they know."
Which is true.
And that is the freaking struggle out here as a musician, you know.
It really is, because you have these people that think they know about music. Well, why don't you play your own stuff? But as soon as someone plays something original, you tune out.
Yep. It's pretty tough out here for a musician in these streets.
It really is, because we're so conditioned now, and we all of us, well, me, we do this talk about, man, I remember when MTV played music and blah blah blah. But really, isn't it the MTV that got us to the point where deep cuts are a niche genre?
Yeah.
When it comes to different radio stations, we only want to hear the hits, and that's kind of a product of the MTV and commercial radio.
Yeah, like the Billboard Hot 100.
Yeah. I mean, granted, MTV did have times when it did play music. It would play, you know, it was, you know, handcuffed based on whatever was a music video at the time, of course.
Right, yeah, whatever was a single, right?
Right. But commercial radio helps to determine what the
singles are going to be, right?
Right. So really, commercial radio handcuffs MTV, and now you're looking at like 40 plus years of this.
Right. Well, radio killed the artist, right? And then video killed the radio star.
Right. Exactly. So he's absolutely right. People during the day, it's the people at night that are, you know, coming out of work,
and then like, and
whatever.
She says, you know, well, I paid you, and he goes, you gave me 10 cents. Like what, you know, like,
oh, now you're in it for the money.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And I love their back and forth on that stuff. You know, like
because she challenges them. She challenges them.
And so she's like, why don't you get a job in a shop? You know, and like essentially like this whole movie, the reason that I love this movie is that it really does sort of like put up that that question about like, why are you making art? How do you make art if you don't have money? What do you do for money if you're a real artist? Because these people are clearly talented. Like they could sell out and like he could play at bars and stuff if he wanted to make better money. He's got the finesse for it, you know.
Right. Well, but they're both very, very awkward. Some of their conversations are extremely awkward.
Mm-hmm.
And like even when he was like, "Well, do you want to stay here?"
So they're both coming out of relationships, right?
Yeah, she's coming from a marriage. He's coming from a long-standing dating situation where he was cheated on.
Yeah.
And that scene on the bus was real funny. I looked at Sharon.
I love it. His different songs.
His different music styles for what happened. I looked at Sharon. I was like, huh. So that's the way public transportation works over in Europe. Because, you know, here in Pittsburgh, they're like, shut the fuck up.
I don't know. That old woman did give him the side eye, though.
She did, but then she was trying not to laugh, and then she starts laughing.
yeah, like, but all of those different styles were so funny. Like his like metal version was really funny.
It really was, and he is so like he's very talented. Like he's got a lot of charm.
He does, even though he's awkward, right? Like you said,
he's super awkward, but there's a charm in that awkwardness. Well, you also figure this is the first girl he's really tried to talk to
since then, right?
Since the breakup.
And then you mentioned like he wants, so she comes over and hangs out with him a little bit. They listen to music and stuff, and that's always cool.
While his dad fixes her
vacuum
cleaner, but it's really just an issue with the belt. It's not broken.
Right.
You just got to change the belt.
And like, there's this like weird. I don't want to necessarily use the word weird, but their relationship is interesting to me because he is like, there's a part of him that, I mean, he's attracted to her, he's into her.
But he's still hung up on his ex.
Yeah, but I think that she's into him too. But also, they don't ever go that route. Like, there's the first day where he kind of asks if she wants to stay, and that's sort of loaded with its own implications. But after that, he's super respectful. He tries to give her opportunities to hang out with him, but he's not pushing her to do anything that she doesn't want to do.
Right. But then she, in turn, she's sort of digging him too, because when he asks her if she loves her husband, and that's the big twist, that she has a husband in the Czech Republic.
And they have a kid.
They have a kid, but she left because they weren't really working out, because he was older, blah, blah, blah. And he asks her, do you love him? And she tells him, I love you, but she won't translate it. So it's like, so she's vibing on him too. And this is and I told Sharon this, what really makes this movie so appealing is that how many times have we had missed opportunities like this based on awkwardness plus misreading situations and then just never going for it? It's
a frustrating movie. Can we say that? Like, the end of it is frustrating.
It is. It's very frustrating because, he's going for his dreams by going back to the same person who just cheated on him.
Mm-hmm.
And the girl is going to be with a guy that she doesn't love for the sake of her kid.
Yeah.
Which is something that we say all the time. Don't stay with the other parent, your co-parent of your child, for the child, because that's not fair to the child. And it's not fair to you because you're not going to be happy. So the only real change there is that he goes to London and he buys this girl a piano. And Sharon goes, how the hell did that big piano go into that little ass space? And that comes out of Sharon's mouth.
Yeah. Well, it is a small apartment for sure, but
I
trust the movers, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they do this for a living. You know, this is how
they
they
get
put
it up
food
there.
on.
It'll be fine. I mean, you know, like maybe they had to bring it in through the window. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that in movies before. You get the rope, you wrap it around, you hoist it.
Yeah, but like, so their relationship is indicative of this like really specific kind of relationship that happens between creative people.
Right.
That is all at once. It is like invigorating and energizing and mysterious and magical and all, like, because here's a guy who's written all these songs, right?
Yes.
He could have at any moment in his life, he could have gone for that loan, got those guys off the street and gone and recorded a record. But it was after he met her, he found the piece, right? Like, this was the thing that was missing. She was the thing that was missing.
She was that muse.
And so when they started working together, and the music shop scene that you mentioned is the perfect example of this, where like they're sort of like clumsy at first, trying to find the rhythm and trying to find the notes. But then whenever they fall into that together, it's
So
just
beautiful.
magical.
So
And
beautiful.
that song is gorgeous.
It really is. I mean, it hit hard.
Yeah.
I mean, we're coming off of one emotionally charged musical masterclass from last week's episode, and we pick right up on it again this week. I mean,
yeah, and it's interesting because here the stakes are not nearly as high.
Right. And really, this is also two people that they're not in the music business. They're just very talented musicians.
And very passionate about
and very
what is essentially a hobby, right?
Right, exactly. And then now he's trying to take that demo to go and do more with it.
Yeah.
So really, this could almost be like a prequel to like Once Upon a Time in London.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is like, it is an ambiguous ending because if that demo does hit, then they're not finished with each other.
Right. Unless he finds another piano player that, and he could just like, just do what she did. It's fine.
Right. And she would never be able to, right? Like,
no, not at all.
They would never be able to have the same synergy that these two had.
Right.
Which is what frustrates me at the end. It is even about wanting these two people to be together romantically. It's like, how can you give up on this like collaborative relationship so quickly?
Right. Because I mean, look, you can play the pubs there in Dublin and get noticed by record companies there. And I mean, granted, okay, this is 2007. We're in the early days of YouTube. Now, granted, who could have figured that so many musical careers would be based off of uploading videos to YouTube? But with hindsight, they could have uploaded some of their stuff of them playing to YouTube and would have like scored.
Yeah.
In those early days of YouTube when no one was really doing that yet, I'm talking in the Chocolate Rain days and like these indie artists were blowing up.
Yeah.
And it's a frustrating ending because of, and maybe it's because we're looking at this in a lens from 15 years later.
Yeah.
But there's so many.
Because there's so much magic in their relationship that you would think like they would want to preserve that working relationship, even if they weren't going to be together romantically, right?
Right. But I think that the only reason why he's leaving is because of the ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, and the only reason she's staying is because of the husband and the kid, right?
Right. Yeah. Because, I mean, they flirt so much at the idea of getting together.
They do. And he asks her to come with him.
Mm-hmm.
And she agrees, but then she just doesn't come. She just doesn't show. And then she's gone the next day when he goes by to see her.
Yeah, she blows him off completely.
And there's this one really great moment when he asks her to go with him, and this was when they're recording, right? When they're in the studio and they're playing the piano. And he's like, "Why don't you come with me?" And she's like, and they're like flirting with it again, like you said, right? And then she's like, "Can my mother come?" And then that's sort of like the moment that, you know, I think that we all are guilty of this, where we like flirt with these like grand ideas with people from time to time, but then one of us will say the thing
they'll bring it back to reality.
Right. And then you're like, oh, that, you know, we weren't really thinking about the logistics of this thing.
Right. Because at the end of the day, look, you ain't got a job in London. You ain't got nowhere to live in London. And you got a kid. See, he can just run to London and couch crash.
Yeah.
She can't.
Yeah.
And I think that's why she said, well, can my mother come, to sort of bring him back to reality? Not just him, but her too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, well, and she's also decided she's not going to fight for him. When she finds out that he's still hung up on his ex, you notice that's when some of the flirting from her perspective is gone. And she's just helping a friend. Yeah,
well, you know, so like, let's talk about like this as in terms of plot, because it is mostly plotless, right? Like
there is no real plot. There is no real plot to this.
There's no real conflict beyond just like you want these two people to be together, and they don't necessarily want to do the things that they need to do in order to be together.
And that conflict is our fault.
Yeah, that's our fault.
Because we're conditioned to anytime there's a male and female lead, they got to get together. Chemistry. They have chemistry. They got to be together.
Yeah. But it's not how this pans out. But the story is really just about these two people meeting each other hitting it off, making beautiful music, and then deciding to like try
Go
to
their
take the steps
separate
to
ways.
make something. And it's not even about them making it in the business or getting the right person to listen to it or anything. Like, it's just about the creation of the thing.
Right.
And once
That's
the
it.
thing is created, the movie ends. And there's
Right.
something beautiful about that, because in a capitalist world, we're all conditioned to think like, well, this isn't successful unless something comes of it. But no, it's successful because it
It was
exists now.
created. Yeah. Now it is here. It has been created. And that's the thing, you know, and you're absolutely right. You know, in this society, we really think that music hasn't arrived until it makes money. No,
Right.
music
I mean, any
exists
art.
because
That's how we feel about
yeah,
any art.
yeah. Any art exists because it exists. Just like you, me, we're not making millions of dollars. Does that make us any less podcasters or existing?
Or
No.
writers,
Or
or like,
writers.
I
Right.
mean, this is the thing, right? Is like, I was thinking about this as I watched this movie this time, because so I have seen this movie several times, but this is the first time I've watched it since I put out the Sequoia Rising record, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it sort of changed my
Great record, by
relationship.
the way. Great
Thank you
record,
so
by the
much.
way.
Thank you so much.
If you guys have not picked that up, you really, really need to.
But as I was listening, it changes when you put out a record and then you watch a movie about making a record. It sort of changes the way you interact with that.
Right.
And like, so there's this scene where they go to record this thing and they spend just so long in the studio, like living, breathing it, putting down tracks, everything. They're pretty good, all of that. And then,
Producer at first doesn't want nothing
yeah,
to do with
I
it.
love the producer in this, like, because at first he is not sold on it, but as soon as they start playing, he starts like doing his job all of a sudden.
Right. And I'm just like, wow, what a dick. Like,
right.
You're getting paid to do this and you don't care. Oh, now you're into
yeah, but then again, like, then he starts, this is, I remember this every time I've ever recorded music, like, it starts to get a lot more real whenever you take it out of the studio for the first time. And he's like, well, we've listened to it on these like really fancy studio speakers. Let's go listen to it on some shitty speakers.
Right.
And that's always the next step. And it's interesting because when you're in the studio, or when you're like, even in here, when I'm just like pouring into work and recording and all of that, it can start to feel like a dream, because you're living and breathing in this one space and you're hearing it over and over again on the same speakers, and you're like kind of driving yourself crazy with it a little bit. But when you first take it out, like either on a phone or on a CD or something, and put it in your car and just drive around the block listening to it, it changes it for you, right?
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden now it's in the world, even though no one else has heard it yet. Like, it is now something that has, like, this is the sanctuary. The studio is the sanctuary, right? But now you've taken it and you've taken it outside. And then the other moment was when he played it for his dad. And it's the first time that he played it for somebody that wasn't involved with the making of it.
Right.
And that's also like a really unique feeling.
And his dad, he's trying to like make excuses for it. His dad's like, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Like,
and I love that support. I love his dad also. Like, whenever they were all practicing up in his bedroom and he like brought the little tray with like snacks up there.
Yeah, that was really, because you know what, my mom was very hands off with her support when I was really into music. Like, she never like yelled, keep it down. Because, well, when I was at the house doing stuff, it was more with just an R&B group, so there were no instruments. But when I first picked up a bass and started playing it, you know, my mother would, she never like yelled for me to keep it down. You know, she never went, oh, that sounds amazing, blah, blah, blah. She never told me to keep it down.
Yeah.
So it was more of like sort of like a hands-off silent partner kind of support. But in this aspect of it, yeah, you know, the dad he's all about it. He's very supportive. And there's something to be said too, because he even says earlier on in the movie that he moved back in with his dad because his mother died. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you know, his dad is trying to support him, because it's like, all right, you don't have to come take care of me. Get out. Yeah. Go live.
Yeah, I love the dad character. And this is the rare movie where, like, okay, so like the producer or the audio engineer is like kind of a jerk, but there are no bad people in this movie.
No, they're really, except for the dick that tries to steal his money at the beginning. I texted you and was like, that guy sucks.
But even that dude is like just a dude.
And he's only there for like a hot skip and a jump. But yeah, there are no real people that are just being jerks for the sake of being jerks. We don't have the guy that's trying to tear down the community center because they want a golf course.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, there's not a villain here.
Right. Well, I really found it hilarious when they go to get the bank loan and suddenly
That was the best because
the loan officer just happens to have a guitar. I looked at Sharon. I was like, "So everyone in Ireland plays guitar?"
I was thinking during that scene, I was like, that would be so shitty to like have to try to sell a bank person on your art to get money for it.
Yeah.
Because the odds are you're not going to get that. But then that dude he totally gets it, right? Because he's like, let me play you something.
Yeah, and he's just playing. They're just like, and they're jiving to it. And I was like, well, if his guitar playing was so good, why don't you get him to play on your album?
Well, we already had the band by then,
Yeah, and it was even funny how they went and got the band.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't really play that, no. Oh. You want to anyway? Yeah, sure.
Gonna do a bit of recording, eh?
Yeah.
Do a bit of recording.
Yeah, we're gonna do a little bit of recording. Gonna do a little recording. Yeah, we're gonna do a little recording.
But when they went into the studio and like the kid that plays the drums, he's like, "All right, let's get the kit set up so we can like hear, like test the sound on." He's like, "No, it sounds good. I'd listen to it every day." He's like, "No, like it's like it's not the same thing."
Yeah, no, that was too funny. Well, when you've never recorded before, right, you don't realize that you got to put mics on
all of it.
On all of it, yeah.
And different kinds of mics and
because
the angles in the room and all of that. Yeah, like miking drums is such a bitch.
It really is. It's a whole science behind it. You either know how to do it or you don't.
Yeah, that's why I just use one drum. Like I just use a hand drum. I don't use
you just use a snare drum.
Yeah, I don't use a kit.
Yeah, you just have the snare and the one cymbal and that's it.
Yeah, well, what we do is we use a cajon, which is like that like wooden box that has the different pieces in it. Like, so like depending on where you hit it, there's a snare sound, there's a bass, like a kick sound. Okay. And then if you want any cymbal sounds, you just have to add those in post, like separately.
Gotcha.
But yeah, like it's just a way to keep rhythm with a couple of different sounds, but it mimics basically the sound of a kick or the sound of a snare. And then you just have to sweeten it. And ideally, even that you mic with two mics, you mic from the back and you mic from the front, because you want to capture the sound of the sound coming out of the hole at the back, and you also want to capture the sound of the hand hitting the wood,
Right. See, my one client who plays drums, and I give him tons of credit because this guy's legally blind, and he plays drums, and he's really good. He has an electric drum kit, and when he's really like in his mood to play, he just puts on his headphones, and I think his headphone. He has like the dual head, but his headphones have a dual thing going. Or I think what it is that he puts on his headphones like I've got, and then he takes like the one ear off, and then he plays the music that he's into, and he just plays along.
Yeah.
Which, any sort of musician, that's what we do that's what we do, right? Actually, I got to start doing more of that.
Yeah, I've just recently gotten back into it.
I'm realizing too that I'm a much better bass player than I realize.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I'm playing a 5-string. I actually told someone when I mentioned that I play bass, they're like, "Oh, well, what do you play?" I was like, "Oh, I play a 5-string Fender." I'm like, "Oh, 5-string, so you're a real bass player." And I'm like, as opposed to what? Like, I never understood why the amount of strings determines difficulty. Yeah. It just doesn't make sense to me. To me, it's just, oh, cool, I have an extra. Yeah, it's a preference. And I've got that extra string to get that deep sound. So awesome. But, every time I mention to someone that I play bass and I say I play a 5-string, oh, you're a bass player. I'm like, I guess. And I'm starting to learn notes now because I have the stickers on the fretboard, but I'm understanding because we're not doing tab as much.
Yeah.
And I'm actually noticing it's a lot easier to play via note than it is play via tab. So when I'm watching them and I'm like, so if you tell me which notes that we should be on, I might even be able to jam with you guys. This is so cool. Like I started getting these,
like if somebody tells you like this is in C, then you know which notes you can hit.
I'm starting to get there.
Right.
I'm starting to get there. Like I know that I'm going to start on a C, and then it's like, all right, now I have to go by sound.
Yeah.
To where I want to go next, and it'll take me a minute. But once we finish that bar,
then
we're coming back to it. Then I'm solid. Yeah. So the whole point that I'm making as I go on this little tangent, is that this movie really they know what it's like to be a struggling musician.
This is it,
and
right?
how to get started. This is it.
This movie feels genuine. This is not Hollywood making a movie about musicians. This is musicians making a movie about musicians.
Right. Even
And so
as
it doesn't feel as much like a movie as it would if Hollywood made it, right?
right. It feels like we're just we're voyeurs.
It's like a day in the life sort of thing, right? It's a slice of
Or like
life.
it's a documentary. It's an actual real to life documentary.
Yeah, a little bit. I can see that.
And it's very and I want to take a step backward to when we talked about the names of our protagonists.
Mm-hmm.
They're not important.
Yeah.
They're
Because
just,
I think they're supposed to be sort of everyman characters, right? They're
they're
supposed to represent
us.
artists, right?
Right. How many of us as you and I as male musicians? That's us.
Yeah.
Right? If you're a musician, chances are you've had to move back in with your parents a couple of times, even though you're an adult.
And if you're a musician, you've also had this moment where you have like caught fire with another person.
Yes.
And you've wanted
group of people,
and you've wanted nothing more than to work like exhaustively with those people until you've created something beautiful.
Right. Exactly.
Like it's like a fever that you get whenever you're in that mode.
Yeah, and sometimes it needs more cowbell. Sometimes it needs better production. Sometimes it just needs a beautiful piano hook.
That's it. Yeah. But man, like there are few scenes in film that I've seen that capture that specific moment when two people are starting to learn each other, as well as that scene in the music shop.
I think that scene in the music shop is probably one of the best that we have seen as a show.
Yeah.
I really do. Because
it's so natural and so authentic.
It really is. And there's nothing like the awkwardness when you first play together.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just come together like you've been doing it forever.
Yeah. And then you can't get enough of it, right? Because then he starts like sending her all of his music, seeing what she has to think about it. You know, she has to like go steal money from her kid's piggy bank.
And go, I'll pay you back.
Right. So she could replace the batteries in her little like Walkman.
Yeah. And you know what? You want to talk about trust in another human being, because musicians and authors, we don't do that.
Yeah.
We don't just give our shit out for someone to listen to, because what is it? We're always paranoid that someone is going to steal our shit.
Yeah.
When you first create, when you first become an artist, your biggest fear, it wakes you up in the middle of the night, is someone taking your art and making it theirs.
Yeah, and so it is a rare thing when you want to go all in with somebody that you've just met. Like there's got to be a magic there. Like it's something that you can't explain. It happens for sure, but it's something you can't explain.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Like if I live down near you, we'd probably be doing like this podcast wouldn't even get done because we'd probably be doing music all day.
Yeah, that would be a cool vibe.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, I'm not.
I need a bassist.
I love playing bass. And I'll tell you what, and there's certain bass lines where it's like, you know what, I wish I didn't sing the way I did.
Yeah.
Because I could just focus on playing.
Right.
But I'm getting better at it. But I can still do, like, I'm still content with just humming or just holding a note while I play, because I'm so transfixed on getting the sound right.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about the music here. We've talked about Falling Slowly, which is it's the song that won
beautiful.
Best Original Song at the Oscars in 2007.
Yes.
As it should. You can't imagine anything else was better. Beautiful song. The rest of the music, so good.
Absolutely. This is a soundtrack here that, like, honestly, you put this on and you're going to rest to it so comfortably. Like, honestly, I want to get this soundtrack and just play it when I go to bed.
Yeah,
when I'm angry.
Beautiful. There's this scene in the middle of this movie where they go to this like dinner where there are a bunch of artists hanging out.
Yes.
And just sitting around the table singing songs. I thought that was such a cool vibe.
It really is, because when you're a musician and you're around other musicians, you just want to share what you can do.
But this is also like such a I suppose this is a European, maybe Irish thing.
Yeah,
there was nothing about because there was nothing about this event that felt like it was grandstanding. These were people that were just there for mutual respect and admiration, right? Like, but here you go to an open mic, everybody's just there to do their own shit. Nobody there cares about anything anybody else is doing. But here, these people were like truly invested in what everyone was doing.
Right. It was very, very. I mean, even when you go to karaoke,
Yeah, everybody's just there to jack off on the camera, you know.
Right.
I
Everyone's
mean,
just
not the
there.
camera, the microphone. Sorry.
Right.
Don't jack
And
off on cameras, kids.
yeah, that's another kind of bar.
Right.
But it's like, it's very rare. Like, because then you also, when you get someone that can actually bring it, and even if they're singing someone else's song,
Well,
they
that and
still,
that like 4-piece string like group that sang that gold song.
yeah.
Ooh, they were so good. They're like they do that little drunk slide harmony. I love that shit.
Absolutely. But I mean, but when it comes to karaoke, even when you get someone that can actually bring it,
Yeah.
it takes someone that actually has a lot of talent to sing someone else's song that can actually get the entire bar to pay attention.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do. And that's just not what we do here in the States that I know of.
Everybody that goes anywhere to perform anything here is only there for themselves.
Right.
They're
There
not
for
interested in
themselves.
hearing what other people are doing or supporting other people. They're only there to toot their own horn.
Right. The only time you're going to get something like that is if you have like a couple of friends over for like a little karaoke party.
Right.
If you have a PlayStation or whatever, you set up SingStar, or if you've got the karaoke party speaker with the mic.
Right.
So when you play the music, you start singing and it drowns out the lead vocals. So
Right.
it's
Right.
you.
Right.
Like that's the only way that you're going to get something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a lot of open mics, and it's usually like very sort of self-congratulatory. Yeah.
Yeah, very selfish. They bring people with them to sort of bump them up to make them look like that they're bigger than they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really sad that something so beautiful,
Because it could be really
perverted.
special, those events, you know, like this was like that's such a cool room to be in with all of those different people singing different styles and just everybody being super appreciative of it.
Right.
It's real cool.
Yeah, it's sort of, and I'm glad that you say that, because I recently watched, because I'm a big fan of list videos, and Watch Mojo does that.
Yeah.
And they were talking about I think it was like the top 10 or top 20 guilty pleasures, and it's like, I'm at the age now where I refuse to feel guilt for any sort of music that I appreciate. You know what? I enjoy certain Nickelback songs. I'm not going to apologize for that.
Do it.
I swear, when Far Away comes on, tears fall, because it's a beautiful song. When Barbie Girl comes on, I remember my son at like 3 years old with the microphone singing Barbie Girl.
Crushing it.
Crushing it too.
Yeah.
Knowing all the parts.
Yeah.
And it's like but we get so caught up. And I think this is a teens into your 20s, into your mid 30s thing. It becomes so cool to hate on stuff.
Yeah.
It becomes so cool to dislike stuff. And in this scene,
it just takes a lot less energy to just like stuff, right? Just like what you like. Like what you like and just let the rest of it go.
Right. And if you don't like it, appreciate the effort that the person is putting into it. Because you ain't doing it.
Right.
This is a film that really takes us back to a simpler time.
Yeah.
It takes us back to simpler times. It takes us back to simpler mindsets. And it takes us really to, at the end, a core story about music. And how music brings people together.
Yeah. And it doesn't need a big bad guy to make it compelling.
No. We don't need the evil manager that talks.
We also didn't even get the love story, right? Like that's
right.
Like it just gave us a story about people that wanted to make something, and it was super simple and it was super beautiful.
Right. The only love story this is that these two people's mutual love for music in this particular project,
and through the transcendent property of love, their love for each other, but it just isn't romantic.
Right. It's more of a love, and the fact that we talked about this sort of last week, that intimacy that you feel with another person when they bring something more out of you. Yeah. Because when someone is able to bring something out of you creatively, that is a beautiful thing. Not like, all right, I'm going to use you and Michelle as an example.
Yeah.
All right. Michelle brings out so many aspects of you, but if you find a person that you jive with on a musical level, Michelle can't bring out that part of you the way that other person can. It don't make it romantic, It's just
Right.
another form of intimacy, and that is an intimacy that unless you have experienced it, you cannot describe
and I
it.
think that from the outside looking in, it often looks romantic.
It will look romantic
because
yeah.
it doesn't, because it is so similar. It's so intimate. It's so like, because it does feel even similar to the way that romantic love feels.
Right. It really does. It feels it, but it's not. And unless you've experienced it, this film
It can be perplexing.
right. And this film does a really, really great job of showing us that. I think this is the first time I've ever seen a film that actually shows us
And
this.
tries really hard to demonstrate that very specific sort of emotion in a way that other films just like that I've never seen, right?
Right,
And
because they don't even kiss.
they don't.
The closest
And
they do is they sit on a bed.
yeah. And
That's
they don't
it.
even really get close to kissing, really.
No, the closest they get to is like she goes, "Oh, you want to get together for some hanky panky?"
Right. She's like, if I come over, we're just gonna hanky panky.
Yeah,
Or something like that.
She's kind of teasing him.
And she does like flirt with him a little bit, like when the motorcycle scene, right? She's like,
right,
she's like, give me the key, or she's like, just let me sit on it. And he's like, no, it's my dad's, and she just like gives him the look, and then the cut, and then she's like on the bike.
Right. So, but it's just
but at the same time, like I said, like to outsiders, it will look romantic, and to the two people involved with it, it will feel romantic.
But it's really
like,
not.
And so the first time you get into a moment like this, it can be totally confusing.
Right, and that's why band breakups are so ugly.
Yeah.
Band
but
breakups
once you sort of like once you have this, you understand what's happening a little bit more. You get some of the, you have this moment a few times, and you don't get very many of them, so you need to figure it out pretty quick.
Right, exactly.
But if it comes back around a second time, and you're lucky enough to have it a second time, then you usually know how to capitalize on it without like misreading it or whatever, right?
Right, exactly. It's like I can't say it enough. It's beautiful. And I'll tell you the truth though, this movie is so to the point and short that it's shorter than some of our podcast episodes.
Yeah, like, it is.
And with so little to talk about in this movie, there's a lot to interpret. Miss Odette agrees because here she comes.
Well, I'll tell you the movie, like we've basically covered it. There's not really much to say about the performances because they're just like very natural people. Like they're not. It doesn't feel like they're acting. They're just being themselves.
They're just them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this is one of those instances where you're doing a film. You don't need to worry about acting. You don't
like
need to be about being a character.
Less is more here, right?
Absolutely. And this film is definitely less than a lot. And that's why we're getting so much more.
Yeah. And I think with you, when you look at the title of it is Once. And I think it really is just about that once in a lifetime moment when you have that perfect synergy with another person. You can't let that moment pass you by without trying to capitalize on it and make the thing that you feel like you're supposed to make.
Absolutely. Miss Odette seems to agree.
Yeah, well then, I mean, if you're good, we can get Bartender Smiley in here and start working through it.
Let's get Smiley in on this.
All right.
The Plotaholics rating system for the movies is a pretty simple system. Basically, they rate movies based on how many shots it takes to get through them. So if you got a good movie and you get through it all the way sober, then it takes 0 shots to get through the movie. And then if you got a really bad movie, then it could take up to 5 shots to get through the whole thing. I think you can try to figure out the middle part yourself. So, what can I get you?
Well, I mean, for me, it's a 0 shot movie. I love it. I think it's a great movie.
I love this film. I think it's a great film. Can I watch it all the time? I don't know.
No, I don't think I don't think you can. But it's definitely one that you'll revisit.
Absolutely.
Not every day, obviously. Maybe like this is a once a year movie. Maybe once every 2 for me.
Yeah, like I can definitely get on board with that.
And it's something that, as an artist, like your relationship with it will change, like
over time
as you evolve as an artist, right? And I've seen that as I've revisited it over the years.
Absolutely, and honestly, I think that I can give this a 0 shot as well. This is 2 straight weeks of
definitely
0
shot for the soundtrack.
Oh, the soundtrack is definitely 0 shot because it's also different. Even from movies that we've done that don't have like musical connotations, it's very different from anything we've
Well, it's just like dripped in local flair, right? Like this is an Irish movie.
It really is. It really is. And of course, Miss Odette's coming in here carrying. Sharon's,
cool.
Sharon's going to throw Odette somewhere because she loves just going after Sharon's shoes. But I'll tell you the truth. This movie is. It's the charm, and it's what we as, I think, Americans picture Ireland to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And thank God we didn't get this whole trope of every Irish musician trying to be just like Bono. Thank God we didn't get that, because I would have checked out so fast.
So Once was made on a $150,000 budget.
Wow.
And which makes it one of the cheapest movies that we've done, other than like Thanksgiving, maybe.
Yeah,
Thanksgiving. Velocipaster.
Yeah, I think Thanksgiving and Velocipaster were each made for
like $10,000 or something.
Yeah, give or take.
And then it made $23.3 million at the box office. It premiered at Sundance in January of 2007, and then had its wide release later that year. It is currently sporting a 97% on the tomato meter and a 91% audience score.
I did not realize that The Simpsons did homage to this episode in their 20th season.
Oh, I didn't realize that either.
Yeah, it's the 14th episode of their 20th season, In the Name of the Grandfather. I just watched this one not too long ago. I might have to. So now the cultural significance of it make way more sense to me now.
Yeah.
So cool. All right. And just one thing that was said, and I'm trying to find where it's. Let me see. All right. So apparently, in May of 2007, Ebert and Roper, Michael Phillips of the Chicago Tribune gave a very enthusiastic review. Phillips called it, quote, the most charming thing I've seen all year. And it was also said that this was, quote, it may be the best music film of our generation. And furthermore, Roper goes on to say, it's more inspirational and uplifting than almost any number of, and he actually specifically name drops Dreamgirls or Chicago, or any multi-zillion-dollar musical show-stopping film. In its own way, it will blow you away. And and that's not to sort of poo-poo what Dreamgirls brings to the table, or Chicago will bring to the table. It's just, this story is just different. It's not about making it big in the music industry. Like we've said in 5 different ways already in this discussion.
It's really cool that they took a different perspective, because almost every music movie about the music business is about making it big.
Right. And this
is about just making music.
Just making music. Exactly. So kudos. And it's also been adapted to a stage play, which is very interesting as well. I'm starting to get into the idea that I want to start exploring more theater. So I think this is going to be one that I'm going to try to find on, try to look up, because I've looked up like multiple different versions of the Steel Magnolias stage play.
Right.
So I think this will be the next one.
I would be interested in checking this one out too. Let's see, Brian, next week we are getting into Dewey Cox.
Walk Hard.
Walk Hard. I love freaking, what is his name?
John C. Reilly.
I love John C. Reilly, yes. But I love, oh my God. What is his name? Tim
Meadows.
Tim Meadows in this movie is so funny. Because like every stage of Dewey's career, like there's like a new drug introduced. And
oh, man.
Have you seen this?
No, I have not. I have not watched Walk Hard before.
So he plays Dewey's drummer, right? And so like in the so essentially what happens is like every time a new drug comes on the scene, Dewey Cox invents a new genre of music. And so it's like cocaine comes out, so he invents like punk rock because he's just got so much energy. And so like Dewey is this like naive guy, and he always discovers his drummer in the bathroom doing drugs.
Okay.
And so he's like, what's going on in here? And he goes, Dewey, you don't want none of this shit. And he's like, well, what is it? He goes, this is cocaine. And he's like, well, what does it do? And he's like, well, it makes you feel like you can fly, and it makes your thoughts run so fast. It makes you feel invincible. And he's like, I think I do want some of that shit. And it happens every time, right? Until the last one, which is Viagra, but I'll like let that one.
Fair enough.
Because they're like old as shit, but
right. You know what? I think the only reason why I never watched it was because Walk the Line was really, really. I found it to be very profound. Yeah. So I wasn't interested in a parody.
Well, and as a parody, I think it's pretty funny.
I'll give it. You know what though? I'll give it a try this time around, and we'll see what's what.
Yeah. So that's what we'll talk about next week, and then we'll follow that up with 8 Mile.
Oh man. This is a movie that I'm excited to do. I'm very excited.
I'm anxious to see, do we get a perfect summer? Do you think we will have any movies that are not 0 shot rated? Because I don't know all of these. I think Tenacious D may not get it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if Tenacious D will get perfect. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. I'm going to look at the list now. I love the fact that our podcast recording schedule is just all right. So we've got
I have
Hard, then we have 8
kind of chart.
Yeah. You know what? I'm kind of. Oh man, Rockstar didn't make it. Oh no, it did. It did.
Yeah, it did.
Okay. Whew. I was getting nervous for a second. I don't know why. But you know what? I think that all right. So from what I'm looking at, I think Tenacious D probably it's gonna begrudgingly not get
maybe, but they're so good at music. It's gonna. I don't know. Like the movie itself may not be that great, but they're so good.
Yeah. I think that their music will get the 0 shot. The movie itself won't get a 0 shot. And if we were doing like Spice World, I don't know how that.
No, well, that one wouldn't, but we're not doing that one. So
no, we're not. So it doesn't matter.
But anyway, that'll do it for this week. Walk Hard next week. Let's see. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe, etc. Tell your friends, your family.
Exactly, and make sure you follow us on the Discord. And let me see. This week, it's already in the can. Katie Celeste and I checked out. We discussed episode 5 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I guess Tim Dipple over on our Discord channel is a little bit. He sort of took a sigh of relief as we just obliterated episode 4 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. But now we were happier with episode 5, so I think he sighed a deep breath of relief.
Yeah, I mean, the video from last week was quite a banger over on YouTube. You got like a ton of comments on it, so.
Nice.
Some JD Estrada action, some Josh Robertson action. So.
Oh wow, nice! I love it when we get some JD Estrada and Josh Robertson action.
Yeah, those are 2 kinds of good action for sure.
Absolutely.
But anyway, man, keep a tab over on the YouTubes. But we will be back next week with Walk Hard. Have a good one.
Take care, guys.
Take a trip with us to Nilbog. Just promise not to drink the goo.
Oh my God!
If you get sucked into the Matrix, we will sing the phone for you.
Do you believe in fate?
But every movie has a plot hole, and every hole gets filled somehow. Whiskey, wine, or blue milk. Just don't cut me off right now. We're the Plotaholics, a breakfast club of 2. We're the Plotaholics, ripping plots apart for you.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.